If every decision in your business keeps coming back to you, it does not mean you are bad at leading. It usually means your business has been using you as the system. And I want to say that really gently, because if you are a high-performing founder, you can go a long time carrying things that were never meant to live entirely inside only your head. You can carry the decisions, client expectations, the team questions, delivery standards, the sales pressure, the brand direction, the emotional tone of the business, the money goals, the uncertainty, the hope, the fear, the desire for the next level. And then one day you look around and think, why does this feel so heavy? Not because you are not grateful, not because the business is not working, not because you are incapable, but because your business is asking your nervous system to hold too many open loops at once. That is what I want to talk about today, because decision fatigue is not always a personal discipline issue. It is often an architecture issue. And for visionary founders, especially service-based founders, consultants, coaches, agency owners, creatives, and women building businesses around their gifts, this matters deeply. Because so many of us did not build the first version of the business from structure. We built it from instinct. We built it from survival. We built it from intuition, from I'll just figure it out, from being able to feel what the client needed, from being able to move quickly, from being the one who could hold it all. And that worked for a season. It probably made you money. It probably helped you grow. It probably helped you become known for the quality of your work. But the same thing that helped you build the business can become the very thing that makes the business feel heavy later. Because if everything still needs your instinct, your approval, your energetic read, your standard, your attention, and your final decision, then the business is not just founder-led, it is founder-held. And there is a difference. A founder-led business has vision. A founder-held business requires the founder to keep everything upright. So if you have been feeling mentally crowded, I want you to pause for a second and actually let this land. You may not need more motivation. You may need fewer decisions living inside your body. You may not need to push harder. You may need to build a cleaner container. And this is where decision architecture comes in. Decision architecture is the structure that helps your business make decisions without everything having to return to you in real time. It is not bureaucracy. It is not corporate heaviness. It is not a 60-page SOP nobody actually reads. It is simply the clear, calm structure that answers who decides, what standards are we using, when does this need further input, when does it not, what is the default, what gets escalated, what can move without me. Because when those things are not clear, the business will keep coming back to the safest place it knows. And in a founder-led business, that is usually you. Your brain becomes the inbox. Your body becomes the alarm system. Your energy becomes the quality control process. Your attention becomes the bottleneck. And then we wonder why we cannot think clearly. So let's name what decision fatigue actually looks like. It does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like staring at a message for 10 minutes because you cannot decide how to respond. Sometimes it looks like rewriting a caption 5 times because nothing feels quite right. Sometimes it looks like delaying a hire because you cannot tell whether the problem is the person, the role, or your own fear of letting go. Sometimes it looks like saying, just send it to me and I'll check it, even though a part of you resents being asked. Sometimes it looks like avoiding your inbox, not because you are lazy, but because every message feels like another demand on your internal system. Sometimes it looks like making fast decisions just to get the pressure out of your body. And sometimes it looks like not deciding at all. This is why I do not love simplistic advice like just delegate more, because delegation without decision architecture often creates more work for the founder. If you delegate a task but keep the decision rights, you have not truly delegated. You have just moved the labor while keeping the mental load. And this is where so many founders get stuck. They hire help, but the business still feels heavy. They bring in a VA, an OBM, a contractor, a marketing person, a delivery person, a strategist, a designer, a copywriter, a social media manager, and still everything comes back. Why? Because the task moved, but the decision did not. The ownership did not. The standard did not become visible. The founder still remained the final source of truth. And I say that without judgment because I know this pattern intimately. When you have high standards, when you care absolutely deeply, when your work is personal, when your name is on the business, when your intuition is sharp, it can feel safer to keep things close. There is also an energetic layer to this. Sometimes the business keeps coming back to you because a part of you does not yet feel safe letting it be held by anyone else. Not because you are controlling, because your nervous system learned that you had to be the one who noticed everything. You had to be the one who kept things together. You had to be the one who could anticipate what might go wrong. You had to be the one who could sense the emotional temperature of the room. And that pattern can make you very capable. But it can also make scale feel unsafe. Because the next level of business asks you to release the identity of being the one who holds everything. That is not just a systems shift. It is an identity shift. It is a nervous system shift. It is a leadership shift. And this is where manifestation and strategy meet. Because receiving more money, more clients, more opportunities, more visibility, more growth, requires capacity. It requires a container. If the business does not have the structure to hold more, then more can feel like threat. More clients can feel like more pressure. More revenue can feel like more responsibility. More visibility can feel like more exposure. More team can feel like more people needing you. And then unconsciously, you may slow growth down just to feel safe again. That is not self-sabotage in the shallow way people talk about it. That is your system trying to protect you. So, the question becomes, how do we make the next level feel safer to hold? Not by shrinking your ambition, not by pretending you do not want more, not by convincing yourself that maybe you are not meant for the level you desire, which is bullshit, but by building better architecture around it. by creating a business that can hold the growth you are calling in, by becoming the person who can receive more without needing to carry every piece of it yourself. Here are the 5 layers I would look at. Layer 1, decision categories. Not every decision belongs to you. This sounds obvious, but in founder-led businesses, it is often not defined. There are founder-only decisions. There are leadership decisions. There are team-owned decisions. And there are default decisions that should not require discussion at all. Founder-only decisions are things like major positioning shifts, pricing philosophy, big partnerships, brand direction, hiring senior leadership, or decisions that affect the future shape of the company. But deciding whether a client email is okay to send should probably not live with you forever. Approving every tiny visual asset should not live with you forever. Being asked to weigh in on things that have already happened 47 times before should not live with you forever. So your first step is to sort the decisions. Ask yourself, what decisions genuinely require my vision? What decisions require my standards but not my direct involvement? What decisions are returning to me because no one knows the rule? What decisions are returning to me because I have not let the team own them? And the last one may sting a little, but it is powerful. Because sometimes the bottleneck is not that your team cannot decide. It is that the business has learned not to decide without you. Layer 2, decision rights. Once you know the categories, you need to know who owns what. Who decides? Who recommends? Who reviews? Who executes? This is where so much friction disappears. Because a capable person without decision rights will still behave like an assistant. They will keep asking, they will keep checking, they will keep waiting. Not because they are incapable, but because the structure has not authorized them to lead. And if you want your business to stop coming back to you, people need more than tasks. They need ownership. Decision criteria. People make better decisions when they know the standard. This is where your founder brain needs to become visible. A lot of founders have incredible internal standards, but the standards live inside them. They can feel when something is off. They know when the tone is wrong. They know when the offer is not clean. They know when the client experience is not quite right. They know when something feels misaligned. But if that knowing only lives inside you, everyone has to come back to you to access it. So the work is not to lower your standards. The work is to translate your standards. What does good look like? What does on brand mean? What makes this client ready? What makes this decision aligned? What are the non-negotiables? What are the flexible edges? This is where your intuition becomes operational. Not because you are removing the magic, but because you are giving the business a way to hold the magic without draining you. Layer 4, decision cadence. Not every decision deserves immediate access to your energy. This is a huge one. A lot of founder fatigue comes from real-time decision interruption. A question comes in. You answer. A client issue appears. You switch. A team member asks something. You pause your own work. A sales idea comes up. You abandon what you were doing. And all day long, your nervous system is being pulled into micro decisions. You do not need to be available to every decision at the exact moment it appears. Some decisions belong in a weekly review. Some belong in a team meeting. Some belong in a dashboard. Some belong in a CEO day. Some belong in a decision log. This is where you start creating rhythm, because a business without rhythm will always feel louder than it needs to. Layer 5, escalation rules. The final layer is knowing what actually comes to you. Not everything, not nothing, the right things. You might decide, bring it to me if it affects revenue over a certain amount. Bring it to me if it changes the client promise. Bring it to me if it affects brand trust. Bring it to me if it creates legal, financial, or reputational risk. Bring it to me if the team has already tried the decision framework and still needs founder judgment. That is different from bring it to me because we are unsure. Uncertainty is not always a founder level issue. Sometimes uncertainty is just a sign the team needs better criteria. So if your business feels heavy right now, I want you to ask yourself, where is the business still using me as this system? Where are decisions returning to me unnecessarily? Where have I delegated the task but kept the mental load? Where does the team need clearer ownership? Where do I need to make my standards visible? And where might I be unconsciously keeping things close because letting go does not yet feel safe? These are not small questions. These are leadership questions. And this is the kind of work that changes the way a business feels. Because when the decisions are cleaner, your energy gets cleaner. When the ownership is clearer, your leadership gets clearer. When the business has a container, your body can begin to soften. And from that place, you do not just work better. You receive better. You lead better. You sell better. You create better. You become more available to the actual vision because you are no longer drowning in every tiny decision around you. That is the real point. The goal is not to remove you from the business. The goal is to remove the unnecessary dependency on you so your presence can be used where it actually matters. Your brain is not the business system. Your nervous system is not the operating plan. Your capacity is not something to be spent on everything. It is something to be protected, directed, and honored. So if this landed for you, the next step I would recommend is the Calm CEO map. It is designed to help you see where your business is still returning to you, where the friction is sitting, and what kind of operating container you need next. Because sometimes the problem is not that you need to work harder. It is that the business needs to be mapped more clearly. The Calm CEO map will help you identify what is draining your capacity, where decisions are still living in your head, and what needs to shift so your business can feel calmer, cleaner, and more supportive. And if you are in a season where your mind feels full and you need immediate space, I also recommend joining the free 7-day CEO Reset email sequence. That is a beautiful place to start if you want to clear the noise, come back to your CEO energy, and reset the way you are holding the business. I'll leave both links below. But for today, just start here. Notice what keeps coming back to you, not with judgment, with curiosity. Because what keeps coming back to you is usually showing you exactly where the business needs its next layer of structure. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And as always, I will see you in the next video.